Hi, I'm Cláudio Alves, film critic for several outlets, mostly the Film Experience, and this is Juan Carlos Ojano. Say hi.
Hi. Hi. Nice to see
So
you again.
yeah, it's been it's been a time since we talked face to face. Well, face to face sort of through the internet.
Yeah. Always just chatting, but not this one since for a while.
Well, so I read your screenplay, Closing Time, and I found it really interesting. And it seems like a great project to be embarking during Pride Month.
Yeah, I mean, it things just fell in this direction without really having a plan. It wasn't really set to be launched during this time, but I started writing this September last year, and I didn't get to finish it until March to April, and then some sort of pre-production April and May, and then we just launched the campaign, like announced it to the world on June, which happens to be Pride Month. So it's all like serendipity, like just one of the big factors in the screenplay is serendipity. And so in this one as well, the campaign just launched on Pride Month, and great timing.
Well, yeah, I really enjoy reading a screenplay like yours that um has so many details that seem to come from a director's mind, especially in the first section of the film that is set in, well, you call it a wellness center, but it's more of a gay bathhouse, the environment that you're describing. And it is curious how your writing sort of describes a set of behavior and scenes and sites that could be very almost pornographic in nature, but it is always extremely grounded by the lead character's anxiety, Toby. And while reading it, I couldn't help but sort of think, this seems something very drawn from real life, from lived experience. And I think I think there will be a lot of queer audiences seeing themselves in the eroticism and the anxieties of this lead character of yours.
And that's what I would hope for. Really, this is the first screenplay that I wrote that is specifically from
Hmm.
the queer experience.
Yeah.
And this screenplay is it's unlike a lot of my other screenplays where usually it's very anecdotal, like there's a certain event in my life. This is really an amalgamation of a lot of things, a lot of observations, a lot of emotions that I personally have, but also a lot of it is also from other people's lived experiences. And of course, I can only experience so much, so that's why I am also a keen observer of other people's lived experience, and that's the interesting process that I've had in closing time is that finding those small things that I can identify with, or like, oh yeah, I haven't experienced that, but I truly get that, and really, it's been a practice on empathy for me on reading stories, hearing stories, jokes, and then finding the undertones within those jokes. Uh, the Manila gay scene, for example, like I would not consider myself to be deeply entrenched in it, but I had some friends and c'est moi. But with that, you do the work because you're curious in this world. Curiosity is a great start, but it's not the great end. You should take a deep dive into it, and you have a lot of ways on diving deep into that story, and that's why this is really. Um, I'm really hoping that I get it right, because this is a very specific subculture. This is a very specific experience. It is still a taboo here in
Hmm.
this country. I mean, just discussing sex, frankly, is still a taboo here. Discussing the gay life is a bit still of a taboo, and discussing gay sex life more so. But a lot of people experience it, and there are real deep human connections and implications of the actions that are being done, and the stories that are not being told. I like telling those stories. I like questioning, why is this story not being told? Oh, because it's a taboo. Well, guess what? I'm writing it. That's my motivation. Is that why are we doing this in the first place? Telling stories, and there's a lot of stories already told in the world, and we both love cinema, but I'm just very interested in, why is this a taboo?
Mm-hmm.
The tabooization, or whatever the word is, I believe comes from a lack of understanding, or not being able to, I don't know, no interest in understanding the other in a person's life, and those are the stories that need to be told. Quite frankly, because people live it, and those people deserve to have their stories be told, and I'm at the service of that story. So, you know.
As I said, I really loved all of the little environmental details you get during the sauna sequence, the way you describe the droplets accumulating in the ceiling, or the various qualities of light in the steam room, or when Toby goes into the dark room, the sense of curiosity and the sounds of it. It's all such a mixture of excitement and trepidation, which, as you say, it's an experience many have felt, but we seldom see these things discussed or expressed in cinema. And of course, you're speaking from a very specific cultural environment, but I think cinema as a whole has really shied away from depicting sex as a part of everyday life. And I think your script really deals with desire as a part of life without necessarily demonizing or glamorizing it. It's just showing it quite frankly, at least in the written form. And of course, that threshold when desire becomes intimacy, even if you're not planning for it's a touching depiction, yearning for connection without turning it into a self-pitying melodrama, which sometimes can happen. I, I Hobie is a very 35 pages. So much of his reaction to others is expressed in your writing, and even how he feels towards his own self, towards his own body, and perceiving the gazes of others. I think a great part of queer cinema is crystallizing and showing the gazes of each other, how we test how we perceive others' desire or rejection. Toby struggles a lot with feelings of rejection, even when maybe they're not that acute from others, but they're really heartfelt. It's like a hot iron on his skin sometimes. And I also really appreciated the sort of rhythmic structure that you've created, like the anxiety at a certain point during an almost orgy-like environment, and the calling for now it goes from that directly to him alone. And that break really tells us so much about how we sometimes mulling over wasted opportunities and what if, and it is very relatable. I think a lot of people are going to find themselves relating to the characters, but at the same time, it is almost a queer one night stand fairy tale. The way the story develops, there's a real sense of hope in the connection between Toby and this mysterious man he meets at the bathhouse.
Yeah, I love everything you said. I just want to go back to that, the attention to detail. I learned from
Hmm.
some, I don't know who, I forgot who that was, but it was something along the lines of, like, the more you get specific, the more universal it truly gets.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I believe that uh, film has the capacity to even transcend cultural, whether whatever division that is culturally. I mean, that's why I've had a podcast for several years now that is about world cinema, because I like having to understand cultures that I'm not a part of, and yet I see myself in their stories as well. And that opens up to a deeper understanding of the human experience. As for this one, it's really about, if for me as a writer, if I'm gonna let the audience in and have them understand and have empathy to not only Toby, the protagonist, or JD, but the people who participate in the subculture, they
Hmm.
have to understand the environment. They have to understand the allure. They have to understand what draws people in, and what also hurts people in the process.
Yeah,
But at the same time, even if they're hurt, why do they go back?
yeah.
Because as written in the screenplay, JD is a regular. So what makes him a regular? For Toby, he's a first timer. What makes him take that leap into trying it, trying to go to that wellness center? I am always drawn into those small things. That's probably this is me as a person, but even in the screenwriting process, I just love, love, love those attention to detail, because that shows how much I understand the world. And if I get those details right, then I can honestly come up to someone who's like, had that experience of like, yeah, I did my homework, and I hope I represented people who live this experience well. I am not interested in judgment, but I am interested in the truth. I always believe that you don't always have to make something cinematic in order to be in film. I think life itself is cinematic. Truth is cinematic. Truth is always going to be interesting. And that's why I love getting details and then integrating it here. And as for the structure and, you know, almost this fairy tale like vibe to it, it's a tension that I face head on. Is that, you know, I am gonna face the realities of what it is to be in this community, but at the same time, I don't want to wallow. I think in this kind of place, in this kind of setup, genuine connections are real, and that is a way also of just humanizing this experience, because here, at least in the Philippines, I know in other countries, like going to a bathhouse or going to a spa, it's like it's matter of fact. People do it, you know. Here, it's almost like done in whispers, or trivialized, or made as a joke, or fetishized. I want people to see that there is more to whispers, and why it is important to tell this story, this subculture. I just want people to understand, because, you know, it's so easy to pass judgment on people whose lifestyles we do not agree with, and I don't like that. I really am interested in seeing other people's lives. I mean, for sure, I'm not a direct copy of Toby or JD or either or any of the guys there in the spa, but it's about a practice in empathy and making sure that uh, we see each other eye to eye. And it might be hard, especially in that space where people, where desire is like the, you know, it's the main reason why people connect and not really interest in one another. But there are possibilities, and life is weird, and life is full of surprises. And I hope to get all of that complexity condensed into this short as much as I could. Um, you know, it's gonna be a test in filmmaking, but you know, I'm ready.
And as we transition from the bathhouse to to Toby's Airbnb, I was struck again by the feeling of authenticity. And now you describe the sometimes awkward, sometimes really exciting interactions in that sort of hookup, especially the walk there, the way they're trying to talk to each other, but it's of course it's complicated. It is thrilling, but it is also very self-conscious. And I think you really captured it. I remembered when I watched All of Us Strangers and the first sex scene between Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott, I remembered thinking this feels very real, and it's a sort of experience that I've had, and I think a lot of queer men have had, but it is so rare to see it depicted on screen, and the way you write it feels very authentic. I felt that jolt of recognition reading, and I can't wait to see it.
I'm really moved by that. That's all I could wish for as a writer, to capture an experience and people who've had that experience as real, because that's the test of myself as a writer, if I get it right and if I get the authenticity of it. And yeah, I love that scene so much. And to be and not to brag, but it was an easy scene to write. I think it was just coming from a place of, I don't know, just a personal investment and the weirdness of that interaction, but also its charm. The push and pull between nervousness and thrill of getting to know someone, and the possibilities are endless. I mean, you have a target, but you have a possibilities are quite endless. You don't know what's gonna happen yet. I mean, somewhere during that night something might just not click and someone just goes home, or like this really goes well and he sleeps over with me and we have breakfast tomorrow, or like there's a lot of ways this could go, and the fact that the possibilities are right in front of you. um I am so happy that you said that I captured it. It's an honor as a writer to be able to have done that, and I'm really flattered by the comparison to All of Us Strangers, because that's like, woo, not it's
Don't
a
get
lovely
carried
film.
away.
And no, 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 I know, I just like, I love that you love the scene.
And of course, JD leaves, and then we see the reason Toby is in the city in the first place, and it's such a wild contrast. Just reading between the very reticent dialogue full of ellipses during the sort of seduction, the growing intimacy between the two men that are almost strangers, and then just the chaos of the four friends together. It's the shock is so great. It really almost makes you laugh just reading how how disparate the two experiences are.
uh, that's something that we and a lot of people experience, especially when they do a lot of compartmentalization,
Yeah, of course.
that double life. And for us, that's a matter of fact. But when a person watches it, or at least has an objective, say that, oh, really? You have a night full of reading signals and subtle, and then the next day, blah 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 blah, and that's just your life. And
Yeah.
that's how we roll in the queer community, when, especially when for so long, if we've lived a life of being shamed, not just for what we do but for who we are, the way for us to survive is to compartmentalize, and we just absorb the shocks that happen in between. There's no transition even, but that's the truth of the experience. And um yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned it, because it was a whiplash for me as well, to go from that scene of meditation where like he is in the window, and then the following day just waking up still probably thinking about it, and then the next day, oh, where did you go? You had sex? Oh, let's go here. Let's Oh, happy birthday. It's I love it. So- I love that. But also, just to go back a bit to the structure, when you said about the ellipsis and all that, I I'm a writer who doesn't care about. I'm not a writer who cares about structure first, and then I fit my story beats there. I'm not interested in that. I believe stories come to me with their own structures, and these stories are beyond me. I see myself as just a conduit of writing these stories, and the story is what it is. The structure is what it is, and my only job is to make sure that once I get to tell that story, I tell it right and I give it my damn best. But the structure is what it is, and it's a very deliberate choice. I've been doing that since my previous short film, Headline, which was my thesis film, where my first scene is literally half of the film. My first scene has the introduction up to the climax, and the last 1 minute of the film has 10 scenes. It's a rhythm to it. I love playing with structure. Maybe it's probably because I'm, I don't know. Watching a lot of world cinema makes you realize there's not just one way of telling stories, at least in a structural sense, and it invites to a more exciting way of not just telling stories but seeing life, because life is composed of all kinds of structures. And I don't believe that all of our stories could be fit into one cinematic structure. That probably one place of filmmaking has said as this is the way to structure films. I love structure, and I also don't care about traditional structure. And I like playing around with it. So,
Well, and of course, life doesn't have a narrative order. Um, but your screenplay sort of does because there is a very curious reflection when Toby and his friends go to the theater, and who's the actor performing? It's JD,
is
and
he?
and it's almost like a reflection of the time at the bathhouse, because at the bathhouse, even though everybody's exposed, there is a coded language, there is a performance everybody is making. And the connection Toby makes with JD is both a continuation of that, but is also a disruption. It's something a little bit more intimate. And in the theater, what you have is, again, there is this performance that is happening now, really overtly a performance, but still you have those stolen glances, both there and later when everybody is saying hi to the actors and there is a line and there is all of this social performance. And what you say about compartmentalizing, it's also showing this same dynamics echoing through someone's life in very, very different shapes. And I'm really curious to see how you will convey this as a director. This film seems extremely challenging as a director, from the challenge of the bathhouse scenes with all that nudity, all that sex, but also all of the wonderful descriptions you have of the texture of light and the just the visceral feeling of being in that place, to these more more common social gatherings where there is still a secret communication going on. I can't wait to see how you work this out with your actors, and I have great faith in you.
uh, Thank you. And I'm also excited to work with them. I really am, because these are actors that I've seen work, and I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm just excited. I'm really excited to go to reveal them. Ugh. But maybe somewhere closer
Yeah.
to production. But yeah, it is something that I had to put on the page just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. And as for
Hmm.
the performance part, I really like that line from Jackie, I think. Something about what is real and what is a performance. I think that we contend with that a lot of times. Because, for example, in the spa with Toby, he is literally at times naked, and yet it's a performance. He wants to be desired. He wants people to be attracted to him. It's in a performance, and everyone there, everyone's trying to position themselves here because they want to be read as a dominant person. They want to be pursued. They want to pursue. It's a performance. They go to the theater. It's an overt performance, but for me, my thinking is that JD's gotten so good at the performance part. He's used to it, and that's gay spa. When he performs a character, that's when he becomes his true self, truest self. He gets to really express himself through a song. And that's why there is that moment again of like it that part when Toby's just mesmerized because it feels like a reintroduction to JD when JD is singing his heart out. This is a song from a musical within the film. So there's it's not just he's singing as a character. He's literally performing. But that's when Toby sees right through JD. I remember writing that scene and still I'm just like, oh my gosh, I hope I get these actors because I and I did. So I am excited to get to set and that's why we're really working hard on our crowdfunding campaign because we want people to know that this project exists and we are fighting for a lot of things, but especially humanizing this taboo topic. And if they want to join in our cause, they can choose whichever way. And yeah, just in general, just excited to share this story to the world. Yeah.
Well, I can only hope you succeed and everybody sees the value that I see in this project because it
Yeah.
does seem
I
truly
hope so.
special. And hearing you talk about it just makes it feel even more so. And well, I don't want to reveal the ending, but I have to say it is very lovely. And
I know.
you know how much I like ellipses in a film, and I think you
Yes.
find just the right moment to stop. It's perfect.
I know, I know. I mean, I'm not even gonna say thank you. I know, and that is why.
You're so
Like
humble.
no, no, no. But just because you know, when you're writing and just get something, and whatever other people would say, you feel it in your gut that you got it right, and whatever the reception would be, you just know that okay, this scene I got this scene. I understand what this scene means. I understand what are the possibilities of this scene, not just as a filmmaker but as a person. What are the possibilities when queer folk get to see it? I am in love with that scene, and that's very, very self indulgent. But no, but you know, because again, I just see myself as a conduit for these stories. um this story has taken a lot of tinkering around with conversations with people and through months of experience. And you know, as for the last chapter of the film, it I would not have been able to write this have I not gone to a lot of theater productions, and by this year started doing theater classes. And it's just that how life worked on me that it translated to here. And that just excites me because once I write a script, I feel the story has a life of its own. And I will always just be at the service of it. I mean, after this call, I'm probably gonna go to my shot list and finish some shots and work on it. And you know, but that's how it is. I can't wait. I can't wait. I really can't to just share it with everyone. And I hope people would love it because I do.
Well, I think that is a lovely note to end our conversation. And I would just like to appeal to people if you can contribute to the this crowdfunding project, because I think having a closing time out in the world, having its queer trepidation and its queer joy, I think it is very valuable and very important. So thank you for having this conversation with me. It was lovely.
Thank you so much, Claudia. And you know, we should do this more. And maybe in our next recorded conversation, it would be when you finally get to watch the film.
I'm very excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, me too, me too.